Hey, Adam, what's the problem with using hot water through the jackets? Cheers. We had a question last time about, you have a beer that is in the tank and it's too cold. It's too cold ambient and it's pushing down the interior temperature of your fermenter. I actually just had a dear friend hit me up the other day. He was having that. He had a lager drop 10 degrees overnight, 10 degrees F. And he was struggling with it, and we were trying to troubleshoot it. So when I discussed this before, I said that I don't like to mess with the glycol jacket. I don't like to mess by pushing a beer, through the heat exchanger, because you could put hot water through the heat exchanger and run that through. If you have an active ferment going on, you're past the point of the yeast life cycle to where you're going to want to be introducing oxygen. You're going to be staling, right? Oxygen is only wanted for that, ultimately for that growth phase for standard beers. And so my big concern about putting hot water through the jackets is a few things. One, it's a pain. One of the biggest issues I've had with glycol systems over the years is probably working with poorly installed glycol systems. Shout out Bruce. First brewer I worked at, the glycol system actually, the lines actually blew up. The loop actually blew up while I was brewing one time. Insane. It's been a long time, so I mean, names are names. I don't think anybody's gonna be able to track anybody down. I have a feeling he's not listening to educational beer content anymore either. But yeah, I mean, I've had bad luck and worked in some places that had some really junky chiller loops. But one of the problems is, those chiller loops, I don't like to mess around with them. You can get an air bubble, you can get particulate that can mess up a solenoid, an air bubble that's going to mess up flow. It's a real pain, and so few loops are actually built out appropriately to be able to mess around with things, whether they're properly valved or not, or have bleed out spots, whatever. Just isn't a thing more often than not. And it's been a big source of frustration throughout my brewing career. But speaking specifically to this, so to figure out a way to tap into that, to then, push water through your jacket, one, it can be a waste of water. It could be a mess. You're screwing with your glycol loop, which I don't like to do in the first place. You can be introducing potentially water that's hotter than you want it to be as you're warming up that tank. Also, water that's coming in. I'm not certain what the PSI rating on your jackets are, but I don't think it's insanely high. And I do know some water sources are coming into buildings at 60 PSI, which I believe is probably going to be higher than the pressure rating of your jacket, of your glycol jacket. So that's another thing. It's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things. And I do understand the gut instinct to try to do anything to help out with that. What my buddy ended up doing was, cleaning, sanitizing, and purging another tank. But he ran the sanitizer at a much warmer temperature than he normally did, like the higher end, and then transferred the beer over. And all I did was gain 1 degree. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a pickle. It's a pickle, but I don't like messing around with those things. You're making messes, potentially, and maybe your loop is like rigged out for it perfectly, and you could just introduce the water, but it seems like you're going to put a lot of water down the drain. I don't know. There's no clean answer here or ideal answer here. Whether it be on the beer quality, that's always my number one concern, the beer quality side, and things like that. So sometimes you're just better off draining something and then redoing, which is what my buddy ultimately ended up doing. So yeah, I do appreciate the question, though, Lassie.